Welcome, faithful listeners, to a very special episode of Strange Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Benson, and tonight we're dedicating our entire broadcast to introducing you to an exciting new addition to our Strange Darkness family. As we continue to explore the vast realms of the supernatural, we've decided to expand our team. Tonight, we're thrilled to pull back the curtain and introduce you to our new co-host, a voice that will soon become an integral part of our nightly journey into the unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to meet Vanessa Scaduto. Many of you may already know Vanessa as the creator and host of the intriguing Los Rotos Podcast. On her show, Vanessa has made a name for herself by interviewing fellow comedians, delving into their lives and experiences with her unique blend of humor and insight. Her ability to draw out compelling stories from her guests has earned her a dedicated following in the comedy world. But Vanessa's interests extend far beyond the realm of comedy. She's also developed a reputation in the paranormal community for her distinctive approach to storytelling and her unwavering commitment to uncovering the truth behind the unexplained. Tonight's episode is all about getting to know Vanessa. We'll explore how her background in comedy intersects with her fascination for the supernatural. We'll delve into what sparked her interest in the paranormal world and discover what she hopes to bring to Strange Darkness Radio. We'll also give you a taste of what to expect as Vanessa joins our nightly explorations into the shadows. So, dim the lights, settle in, and prepare to meet the newest member of our nocturnal crew. Vanessa Scaduto, welcome to Strange Darkness Radio. Are you ready to introduce yourself to our listeners and embark on this new chapter of your paranormal journey?
Vanessa, welcome to Strange Darkness Radio.
Oh my God, thank you guys for having me.
Welcome. Vanessa Scaduto. That's such a cool sounding name. I love your name.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Sicilian, so it means expired actually.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So you'll see it in Italy everywhere. It will say Scaduto on the or sometimes they have it for no skateboarding. They'll say no Scaduto.
Yes,
so I don't know how
I've
that's
actually heard
why.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Awesome.
But it's a cool name. I mean, I like it.
Very catchy name.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you are now joining Strange Darkness Radio. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. We'll get into your podcast journey in a sec here, but tell the listeners a little bit about you.
Well, my name's Vanessa Scaduto. I'm currently in Florida right now, but originally born and raised in New York City. Eventually moved to Miami, so I've been here a while on kind of all different cities. I'm not in Miami now currently, but I'm trying to think, where do I start with everything?
Well, you know what? Let's jump right into your podcast, Los Rotos Podcast. How did you start that? How did you end up, blending comedy with I want to say life questions, or basically trying to probe other comedians to get them to talk about sometimes seems like paranormal things, but other things also. But tell us a little bit about that.
So as a comedian too, we tend to be kind of blunt and we're observational kind of people. So we're observing stuff. And on the spiritual side of my side, or the paranormal side that I'm interested in, we call that discernment. And I don't think they're aware they're doing it. So I'm always interested in these people who I believe they're not aware of it, but are using energy when they're on stage, reading the audience, having that kind of communion with them with give and take energy. And so it turns out there's a lot more comics who are into the paranormal if you just ask them. They just may not talk about it on stage because it's not always a funny moment. Some of these things are scary or they're embarrassing, and because some people don't believe in them, So I've always been fascinated since I was a child. I think growing up in New York City, being surrounded by tons of history, and buildings built on top of other buildings. I mean, Central Park used to be a city that they wiped out to make a park, you know? So it's like, once you learn sometimes what's been there, what's happened, you know, you get super interested, especially the Northeast is very old part of our country in the sense of development, right? So there was always good stories around, you know, whether we went to Pennsylvania, we went to New Jersey, somebody always had some sort of story. And then my sister and I used to experience stuff too when we were little.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what triggered it. But, you know, you question what you experienced when you're a kid, because it wasn't my imagination. Was it this? But with comedy, because I've always been interested in paranormal, I just thought it was a cool thing to ask funny people, you know, about their experiences, because comics are good storytellers, or I should say good comics are good storytellers. And so I thought it would be entertaining for people to hear it from a comic, because also a good comic is authentic and truly themselves. So once you hear the authenticity and then the sometimes silliness and the funny takes we get from those experiences, it's usually a good time, you know, like we have fun doing it. And so, so that's kind of, but I also am realizing now, I've been, you know, obviously I have a belief system, and I have a belief system that includes spirit guides. And I realize I've been pushed, like even with this podcast, been pushed, cause I don't know if I told you, Bobby, but somebody sent me your podcast and said, hey, this guy's, so after I had already been working on manifesting stuff, whatever. So I did the legwork, because he sent me a screenshot, not the link to it, which I thought was funny, but I was, not the link. So I was like, oh, Spirit's like, you got to do the legwork. Well, we handed it to you, but now you got to actually go find them. Mm-hmm. And so I went and found you, Bobby. And that's when
I'm glad the Spirits guided you.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I look at stuff. So yeah. And, you know, and we'll talk about, I guess, as the podcast goes on, our listeners will learn that I do also have intuitive skills, and I'm part of a group called Metaphysical You. You can look online. I have a mentor named Sarah Reeves. She provides free classes every Wednesday for anybody to join the Zoom call. That's free. So if you're interested in like developing your intuition or understanding, or you have so many questions about the paranormal that none of those YouTube channels are answering for you, or, you know, you go there, because she's not the only one who shows up. So she has a whole group of people that work with her who are psychics, who are mediums, all kinds of people that can do incredible things, amazing things. Nice. And so our goal is basically to let people know that they can do it too. You know, everybody can do it. Exactly. It's whether you want to practice it or get into it. So so I've had my own experiences as part of the reason too. I'm deeply fascinated with the paranormal or the unseen. Mm-hmm. And so, I guess this has always been a theme in my life, pretty much.
Now, I have to ask this question, because listeners will be like, well, you didn't find out this. What got you started in comedy?
I have always been a fan. I've always loved comedy. I think I started writing jokes years before I even performed. Oh. I would just write jokes. I'd share it with some of my friends who were stand-ups that I didn't, you know, they would start, like, it was weird because it was like random people that I used to work with and we were still friends. So I was like, oh, you're doing comedy now. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And I would share the jokes with them and they would be like, why aren't you just doing comedy? Dude, this is hilarious. Like, just go up there. And I didn't. And then finally I did. And it's just now it's one of those love-hate things, you know, you love it so much, but you know, it's work, you know, I don't think people realize,
it's a lot of work,
you know. Yeah, sometimes we have a show in a bar that nobody knew was going to be there, so nobody at the bar wants to listen. They can't have drinks, and you know, maybe find somebody to go home with that night. Who knows, you know? And here I am being like, hey, listen to me. How bad my mom's been to me my whole life. Come on, I need somebody to validate me here, please. You know, so, but I think because I am an older comic, meaning like I've been doing it for so many years, certain things don't really affect me. I do find it funny when the younger comics complain about it. I'm like, yeah, buckle up, buddy, because it's just if you're complaining about this, you're not going to like when you don't get paid for a show or something happens or, things happen when you're in the beginning stages of something, you have to take, and it's so cliche, but you have to take baby steps before you can leap. And a lot of the newer comics I realized that came in during like the pandemic and stuff like that, they were used to like TikTok, like quick, easy things,
exactly.
and so,
Yep.
and we're still feeling that in the comedy world. Those comics who come in or people who want to try comedy think, why aren't I on a showcase after a month? Because you've only been doing comedy a month. Your jokes aren't good enough. I mean, some people can be, don't get me wrong. There's some, but like, yeah, you had one pop at a open mic, but can you do it consistently yet? And that's what I think people don't realize is like it does take practice. I mean, and all of us bomb, even the ones who've been doing it a while. Like sometimes we're just not feeling it, And you just go up there and you're like, why am I here? I have to talk to these people for 5 minutes about.
I'm curious, like how many years you've been doing this, Vanessa?
I've been doing comedy for 6 years now. I had to think about it. It may even be longer, honestly. I was thinking about it because I was asked the other day, yesterday actually, because I murdered. No, I did get really good at the mic. So, and also being a woman, I hate to say, but our industry is male dominated. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the times the audience makes assumptions, about what they're going to hear from me. And then afterwards, the women always love my jokes because it's woman geared, but even the men will come up and be like, that was hilarious. And that's really what I really am happy about, is that I can make both, sides laugh at something. That's the goal. The goal is to, find a joke that's relatable to everybody in the room. I mean, but I'm not going to lie. There's some jokes, if I see it's majority women in the room, I'm like, I'm pulling this joke out because it is harder sometimes to find female fans, of comedy. You get a lot of dudes in there, and that's all I'm surrounded by all the time. I mean, I love them, but it's just
totally.
So when I see other women, I'm like, all right, you'll understand this.
Okay, as you say that, I have to ask, because it goes into women's tuition and all that good stuff, being that you kind of are on the spectrum of being able to sense and feel things. Does that work with your crowd play as far as like, ooh, I'm going to have a bad set, I'm going to have a good set, this is negative energy, all those things?
100% it does. But I'm also very conscious of it. I think if other people were, they would be able to maneuver. I mean, like last night, the vibe, I was able to capture all of their attention, because there's always a couple people who are going to talk loud in a bar or whatever. Yeah. And it was the first time they've had a mic there. So I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Like, because sometimes you have to train the people who come to the bar to be like, oh, comedy's happening, so let's try to keep it down a little bit. But, it's a bar. They got to make money. They can't make all their patrons upset, right? But I was able to win over that couple who was talking in the corner so loud, and they finally shut up. So like you can hear, it's weird. For me, it comes across as like, when you're like, oh, it's silent, everybody's captured their attention. They don't realize that takes energy, right? From that person who's talking to be able to somehow get everybody's attention to focus, or at least to quiet down. And so, but I think if you don't, as a comic, I personally don't dwell on that. I don't dwell on what they're doing, really. Last night some guy turned a light on, and that's just a triggering thing for comics. If you put a light on your camera to take a picture, we're gonna think we're lit. Like, we have to get off stage in a minute. And that's what happened to me. The guy lit me, and I was like, wait, I don't even know you. Like, who's? But he was like right next to me, so I thought. It was so weird, and it really did cut my energy off. But I was murdering the whole time until that moment. But it was only 30 seconds left of my set, anyways. But I was just like, "What is happening right now?" But yeah, so you get tuned into the crowd, and I used to, like, when I first started, I don't like always making eye contact with people, because for me it can be intense. Yeah. But now I don't mind. I sit in it now. Now I sit with it, because sometimes that does bring more of the humor, because I let people really sit with what I say, because my jokes are not PG, but they are, they're funny and blunt, and from a woman's perspective, without being I don't offensive, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like where I'm like, I don't understand this. And then I just go like, somebody explain this to me. So things like that. So yes, energy does play a huge part, I think, with comics.
Yeah.
And also why they're intuitive, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So as an intuitive, what exactly are you sensing from other people? Like when you meet them and then,
It all depends though, because like as I've said to you guys in the past, but I'll say to the audience is that you shouldn't be reading people intentionally, like where if you're an intuitive that has that ability, which I do, where you could like look into them, if that makes sense, into what's going on with them. Now, some people carry things on their outer shell, which is what people are aware of called the aura, right? So sometimes I can sense if they're stressed or sad or just external things. I may not know what exactly it is, but if I keep thinking about it, I will find out. And I'm not trying to. So like, I don't try to do that. I try to just ask the person if they're okay, how they're doing today. And then usually it comes out because, my friends now understand what I'm doing, because before it's just like, oh, but how did you know? It's like, I don't know, man. Right. You just had to look, but it's like, sometimes it's just literally their vibe. They don't even, they're not even upset or anything, but there's something dwelling. I can feel there's something like heavy on them. And sometimes it's those emotions. It's usually a stress emotion or something like that. I do like now that I see happy a lot more too. So that's nice. Like this one guy I see all the time at his store, you go to the gas station, you see the same guy. Yeah. I remember I walked in one day, I'm like, oh, I could feel his energy is just like had been brightened up. And I was like, oh, you seem really happy. He's like, oh, you can tell? And then he proceeds to tell me all this stuff. Awesome. Yeah. So it's like, so it's stuff like that,
But I'm curious, like, so I know you said you try not to read people, but if they wanted you to look into them and read them, what specifically are you able to see from other people?
It all depends what spirit shows me, because so what I'm learning is not to set limitations on yourself, on your abilities, and our words do have power. I know it sounds so cliche, but it does. So what I've been able to see so far is I can see like past relatives that are close to them. Sometimes they'll show me stuff that's been pertinent to the person. So like recently, like on my show, which people can go watch, I read my friend Mikey. I don't necessarily like using tools, and tools are considered like tarot cards, pendulums, Ouija boards, because I don't need it. Some people need that. I don't need that to read energy, but I am trying to reintegrate them back into, because sometimes it can be good for clarifying things if I don't want to expend my energy. So like tools, you don't have to expend your personal energy to read further, because it will give you something else. But so like everybody has, I'm trying to think of how to say this correctly, because so everybody has abilities, right? It's whether they want to develop them. Then you're going to have the person who knows they have probably some intuition, but they don't really further develop it, and they use tools like tarot, which is fine, but it's kind of stunts them in a way, because you want to be able to like develop your skill set without tools. So that way, when you do use a tool, all it is helping that it's already developed skill set,
opposed to a crutch.
Yeah, versus you using it as a crutch. So a lot of the times, like some tarot card readers are really good, but you take those tarot cards away, and then all of a sudden their intuition just they don't follow it as well, because they're looking at something tangible in front of them that gives them like a guidance versus like getting impressions.
It's time for a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Calling all advertisers. Unleash your brand in the shadows. Eager to plunge into realms beyond the mundane? Discover your perfect platform at Strange Darkness Radio, a realm devoted to those who thrive on the extraordinary. Are you ready to captivate paranormal enthusiasts, conspiracy theorists, and lovers of the unexplained? As we venture into the shadows, delve into the supernatural's depths, unravel midnight conjuring conspiracy theories, and explore the mysterious that prowls after hours, our global audience fervently seeks answers that transcend reality's borders. A remarkable opportunity awaits. Advertisers, if your offering resonates with our inquisitive community, take center stage. Align your message with those who crave the extraordinary. By partnering with Strange Darkness Radio, your commercial will mesmerize a captivated audience, embracing paranormal passion, conspiratorial curiosity, and the allure of the enigmatic. From hair-raising novelties to revealing services and enigmatic experiences, your brand will flourish in our domain. Engage a community whose fervor mirrors yours, captivate curiosity, and etch an enduring impression. Join us today. Discover how to weave your brand into the tapestry of Strange Darkness Radio. Here, the paranormal thrives, and the extraordinary is the norm. Unveil mysteries, champion your message, and declare to the world, we embrace the dark without fear. Strange Darkness Radio, where the unexplained resounds loudest. Now back to the show.
When I say dead relatives, I'll start to get an impression of a being, and then I try to decipher if it's a family member, and when I figure out it's a family member, then I have to decipher aunt, uncle, like what. So like this is coming really fast to me, and it slowly like develops like a picture, like and I think I explained before, I like to use Rose and Jack from Titanic, because most people know that scene where she's on the raft and Jack's about to fall into the ocean. And there's a lot of emotion behind that. There's a lot of image, and all of us can pull that into our mind's eye and remember it. Yeah. So that's kind of like what I get is like images like that. So it develops almost like a Polaroid. It kind of comes in like that. Nice. That's kind of how it develops to me, is like a Polaroid in my head. And also it depends on the being, if they think I said something what I needed to say, they're gone. Like they don't need to hang around or whatever. So like if I got the message right to them, like they'll be like, thanks, bye. And like,
I gotta just say, I've talked to a lot of psychics, and this is the first time I've ever heard of a psychic talking about, or person who has that ability talking about, it's best to hone your ability opposed to using, be it the tarot cards, be it a Ouija board, be it, divining rods, or whatever people use for particular things. And I think that's amazing to hear, because a lot of people think they have to have an item to that somehow the item actually guides them, opposed to it's actually their own being and intuition and their own spirituality and seeing beyond the veil. So I definitely think that's incredible to hear. So how did you go from being a comedian, being intuitive, and let me start a podcast? So how did all that happen?
Yeah, I've been aware of my abilities since my early 20s. I would say probably around the time just before I had my daughters. I had my daughter when I was 20. I was a young mom, and I started having even more experiences when she was born. And so I started looking into it, researching stuff, and I started practicing yoga and cleansing my chakras. And I believe I was having a Kundalini awakening is what was going on. And me being young, I was doing remember when Madonna was doing her headstands and stuff? That was the same time I was doing it. I was able to do handstands, all kinds of weird positions that no way in my 40s that, I'm trying to get back there, but I don't think I'm going to be as flexible. But no, my guides are trying to get me back to do more yoga, because that is part of something part of my practice that I need to have. So, so I had these weird things. I started being able to lucid dream and astral project but I had no guidance. Right now I have a mentor, but I had no guidance. I was just reading books and hoping I'd figure it out. But what started happening is it started affecting my daughter. She started seeing things, and I didn't know how at the time to protect her. And I thought, how do I teach her to protect herself? Because, that's usually where the power comes from. At least that's what I was reading in books, which turns out I'm right, but I could have protected her. I just didn't know that. I didn't know that part of it. So I stopped practicing, because she started seeing all kinds of stuff. She saw aliens. She saw Hat Man. She saw, and the thing is, anytime I read a book about these things, that's when she would see them. And she didn't know what I was reading. She's only 3 or 4 years old, but she's describing a man in the hallway with a tall hat, or she was describing aliens. I even went to her school and asked them, have you been reading? Because I'm not trying to be in the world of like craziness. So I'm like, I'm trying to stay grounded and be like, all right, we're in this dimension. So let's make sure there's another avenues. Maybe I can debunk this, you know, kid's a kid, but I couldn't debunk it. And, so my daughter's 22 now, and I have asked her about that experience, and she says her memory of it is there were lights outside her window, but she didn't see an alien or anything.
Wow.
So, but it's still interesting that she remembers those lights, you know, outside her window. And now I look back and I don't know if she needed to be as worried about it, or I needed to be as worried about it either. So
hindsight is always, you know.
Well, you know, now I've had my own personal sightings, which if you want, we can show, or one day you can put it on YouTube. But I have, for the audience to know, I do have the video on Los Rotos if you want to go see, where I show it to a couple comics. But I have a light on my dash cam, shows an orb hovering over my car. So that was proof enough.
Yes, definitely. People go out there and go watch her. Listen to her podcast, watch her podcast, but definitely watch that video and leave, comments, because to me, it's extremely incredible. It is a spiritual light. The light just has a different hue to it, especially than all the lights around it.
It almost looks like Aurora Borealis, like the way it feathers out with the light. Yeah. And it's very interesting.
And this is close up. This is not at a distance. This is not in the, upper atmosphere or anything like that, or something streaking by. Trust me, you're going to want to watch this video. So go to
and I will post it separately. I think I need, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, Bobby. I do think, though, I need to post it separately so people can just watch the video. But it is on my podcast, and I'll probably be showing it to all these comics just because I want their feedback. I want their intuition, but I'm also was told by Spirit I'm supposed to show people. So that is, and I talked to my mentor today about that as well. She's confirmed that I am. So we're supposed to share these things with everybody for a reason, because I know everybody talks about that we're all awakening, and it's that awakening, but it really is happening. So that's so that's kind of,
I hope it hurries up, though. I wanted to rush along. I'm ready for it. This is the year 2025. Let's go.
So it's interesting.
Those lights, though, what do you think that those lights were exactly, Vanessa?
They're Palladian. They're Palladian. They're aliens. So they're Palladian aliens. So Palladians are good guys. They're nothing to fear, really. But they can only communicate with people who are vibrating higher, just because they're higher vibrational beings. So
So when you saw those lights, like, did you feel something internally, like you knew right off the bat that it was something and they were trying to communicate with you?
So when I first, as I went under the overpass, and I guess I will post this video eventually. I will get it out on my YouTube, because I have a YouTube. I just haven't posted a video on it. But when I was listening to my podcast back, because it was the first time recording in a while, and I want to make sure audio was good. And I'm going under the overpass, and I see the light. Like, it got my attention, but I kept thinking it was part of the light poles, because my perspective's off, the road's moving like this. So, but as I neared it, I said, "What's up?" to it, because I just realized what it was. But I think it was just acknowledging, like letting me know, like, hey, we're aware of you. Thanks for saying what's up. Because I, with my group and stuff, we do practice communicating to them. So I think that is part of it. So like even tonight, which tonight, I'm sure this will be posted later, but tonight is the planetary alignment. So January 25th. Oh, that's
right.
So if you want to manifest something, you want to talk to your spirit guides, you want to do whatever, tonight is the night.
Hopefully you guys did that out there.
Yes, I forgot about that. No,
so you can have your own,
reminder.
C3, what is it, C35 event? You can have your own one tonight if you wanted to, because the doors are open pretty much right now. So my friend's having a go away party later, and my mentor was like, do not read tonight, anybody, when you're there. And I said, okay, I won't, because I had a feeling it would be really intense. Because what happens is once we read in this kind of environment, we may be opening up to all kinds of stuff. And it's just because she just knows I have more abilities than I'm aware of. And because I'm not aware of how to utilize those yet, she doesn't want me basically just, at a party where something new comes up, some new
to possibly get an attachment
ability
perhaps?
that I'm aware I can do, because that's what's happening lately, is that I'm being shown what I'm supposed to be doing, like with these abilities or with these things. So I think that's also why the Palladians are involved in it, if that makes sense. I know it sounds so crazy because I've told you guys before, but I'll tell your audience, a lot of people don't talk about this, but we also, if you believe in spirit guides, we have a whole team of them. But what I found out is we also have an alien spirit guide, every one of us. So once I found that out, then I started trying to communicate with him. And so I found out he was Palladian. So if people don't understand spirit guides, most of them are already passed. They'll never be alive. People, they're not always going to be it's very rare they're your family, by the way. People think, oh, they're my guardian angel. I mean, they watch over you, but they're not the one who's assigned to you, if that makes sense, Okay. So, yeah. So
everyone has their own assigned spirit guide that is a deceased alien then? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you have one. Yes. And it's part of your team. So there's at least 7 always around, but 4 that are with you from birth, and maybe 5. I should clarify with the alien one if he's there since birth. I feel like he would be. I say he, but that's because mine is, masculine. But so you have your primary guide, your native guide, your joy guide, and then you have an ascendant master, and then you'd have the alien. So the ascendant master is the guy who goes to the Akasha and gets your records, goes to Akashic records and is like, hey, you did this in your past, but this is the information you should be doing. And right now what we're learning is to go into those records, into the halls, meditating into them, to go visit with these, because we call them Lord of the Records. So there are beings who are basically assigned to caretake these records of all time. And those records also include not only humans, they include every inanimate or animate object you can think of. Everything you can think of, from the flower to the tree to the house, to anything you can think of, to the light switch.
Yeah.
Anything you can think of has a record, which is wild to think of.
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, everything is made up of atoms and protons, and so that is. I
just would think it's a very litigious.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I guess that's why those guys were created. They are their one job. They were created just for that job.
Yeah,
they don't have anything else.
Yeah, we didn't get into your personal background as far as work wise, as far as UX and AI. And all that other stuff. But, so that kind of correlates.
Yeah, so I've had a background. I guess I'm a Jill of all trades. I guess my degree is in electronic media, and I used to help produce the news. I wrote for the paper for the college, but then journalism was dying, so I changed degrees. But then I was a bank manager. I used to do pharmaceutical rep stuff, and then and I left the banking world during the pandemic, and went and got my certification in UX UI design. But I'm also a technical writer, so I do all that. Wow. So that is my background, and I can edit video and all that stuff. So it's been kind of
nice.
So yeah, so my podcasting too is why it's easy for me and my producer Marshall to do it, is because we both worked in news. So we kind of understand the logistics about that kind of stuff. And also he's just a sieve for information. So once he wants to learn something, before I could even open my Google browser, he's probably already there and been like, no, I already figured it out. And then he just tells me, so.
A man after my own heart, because I have to do the same thing.
Yeah, he's really
hook
good
or crook
about
or
it,
necessity, however it needs to get done.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have to ask, how do you pick your comedians, the comedians that come on your show? Are they friends? Are these
some of them are friends for sure. I mean, some are I'm closer to than others, like with any kind of group of collective, right? Some you're really tight with, but it also depends. So like next month, I'm trying to have, it's Black History Month, so I'm going to try to have all my Black comedian friends, but that's hard because I have a lot. So I'm probably going to extend it a little into March. So, but like also, I do mine once a week, and it's like, once I started like doing the podcast, I realized how many comedians are just in Jacksonville that I could interview. And there's probably at least 60. And then that doesn't include all the ones I know in Daytona and Orlando, Miami. But it's easier because my guys are here in Jacksonville to get them. Then, so we'll have some guests outside of Jacksonville when they're in town visiting, doing shows, because that's my goal, is to try to get these guys on while they're in town. But yeah, it's really energy wise. I guess I go, oh, this will be a good chat. Or sometimes even my friends who are shy, I still like having those chats with them because, it gives you this, a good, layer of understanding, like a barometer of like where people believe. Because I had another comic, she asked me if anybody doesn't believe. She just heard people believing on my podcast, and I'm like, no, I have episodes where they tell me they don't believe, and that's okay. Like, because I don't personally, I think what's good about me as the host for that type of questioning is I don't mind if you don't believe. Like, I'm never going to be offended by it.
Let our audience know what you're talking about, because what she does is she'll have the comedians on. They'll be cracking jokes. They'll be talking about particular current topics, but then you'll go into what?
I'll go into asking them if they believe in paranormal stuff. That it would include cryptids, UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call it. Anything that is otherworldly. And, and a lot of times I have people go, I believe something, but I'm not sure. Or I have people go, nope, not even going to welcome that idea into my head,
Yeah. Good luck with Black History Month, by the way, when you get into that.
Oh, no, I know. I'm waiting for it. So like, that's another thing is like, because I have friends from so many different cultures, right? And in the Black community in the South, religion is a big thing. So paranormal stuff is not even want to be talked about because they are, I guess people would say, superstitious in a way, but it's not superstitious. They're not wrong. I mean, we can bring things in by talking about it. We can, like, it may not be able to harm us, but like, you are bringing stuff closer to you when you do talk about things, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hurt you. I guess why I don't fear talking about that stuff or experiencing it is because I'm protected. I'm aware I'm protected all the time. Nice. So no matter what, I don't need to really worry because I know I have a team. And I think what happens is people aren't aware of that, so they don't call upon them.
Okay, I do have a question about this because I've been trying to get Amy out to do particular ghost hunts and stuff like that.
I wish I was there with you. I would come with you in a heartbeat.
I know.
Because I really, when I pick up, I can actually see stuff when I'm in a place like that. That's a new thing that just started happening, but I didn't realize that's what was happening because it's the same way as impressions, but they feel realer. So like when they're on this plane, like they're not in this dimension. I can't explain like what ghosts, but they're here, but they're not here. It's like a mirror plane, like they're here, but like they feel different when they're in the place versus somebody coming in from what we would call the white space or,
So my question is to you, a lot of the people that come on the show, they say to use protection, before you go out, which I totally get it and understand it. But do you have to have a particular chant or thing
honestly,
with you, item or however to, for protection, or they're always there, your guides to protect you?
Okay, so this is going to be a deeper seated issue in the sense of what does the person believe? So if the person, because I know I'm protected, I'm usually covered, right? But I will say, if I know I'm going into a place, I will say for them to come on in and have my back.
Yeah.
So if the person isn't aware that they have these guides helping them, they're not asking for help for an additional protection. Or because what your guides can do is tell you to get out of there. They can tell you, hey, we don't know what that is, so maybe leave. Your native guide, I will let people know, if you're going into a place and you're going to go ghost hunt, you call in that guy or person, whatever, they are to you. But you call in your native guide, because native guides are originally indigenous, usually an indigenous person. And because indigenous people were grounded to the earth, they were very spiritual, and they, if you think of the Hopi and all the tribes that talk about seeing portals and things like that, those are real things. They saw those things because they were so grounded to the earth. So they actually have more defense for you with things that are from other worlds than any other guide. If that makes sense. They can know, some of these entities have different languages and stuff. Like, they can figure out how, like, if you need to get rid of something, it can tell you, your guide can tell you what to do to get rid of it.
Wow.
So
Something,
Vanessa,
yeah.
So speaking about guides and not being aware of them, so does that mean it's kind of like a waste for you, right? Does that mean you're just not going to be protected if you don't know that you have these guides?
No. You're always protected, but what the thing is, you can always ask for extra help. Like, it's not like they can't. Okay. They can only help you as much as you ask them to. So, like, you have a soul contract that you created before you got here, where you ask them to be your guide. You ask them, hey, man, I'm gonna go back, and I'd love for you to make sure I stay on track with what I want to do. These are the things I want to do. So what their job is to nudge us, but they can help us. But they're supposed to nudge us in the direction that leads to us learning what we wanted to learn this lifetime. So, but that doesn't mean that you can't talk to them or ask them for additional assistance, because they can go to the team and be like, hey, man, all right, Amy's dealing with this, and she needs a win. All right, this is a little too much. And then that's what they'll do. They'll start kind of moving things around, but usually there will be what we call tower moments in the tarot, the tower, where you will have to lose something for it to change. And a lot of times it's not fun. It's not a fun process, but that's because they're doing something in your contract for you to help you get to where you need to go. And so that's why I said, like, I asked for assistance, and then my friend Emery sent me the post, what Bobby posted, but a screenshot. And I was like, oh, okay, I see what you guys are doing. You're giving it to me, but you're telling me to go do the legwork. I got you. All right, I'll go do the legwork. We'll see what happens. And then, Bobby and I hit it off. So it's like, those things. So now, because I'm in that era with them where I'm trusting them and letting them guide me versus fighting them every time they put something in front of me, and I go, no, maybe later. And they're like, all right, you're going to kick your butt later. Yeah. And usually I do. So now I'm not trying to kick my butt. I'm trying to just listen to them anytime. Yeah. But I'm also more aware of it. So anytime there's an opportunity or anything, I'm just going to go do it. Like my friend last minute invites me to a party. I don't normally go out anymore, really, except comedy and doing my podcast. But I know that the universe is telling me that I'm supposed to meet somebody. So I know I'm supposed to go out there, and I'll know when I meet this person, and it's not yet. So anytime I'm getting invited to something, I'm just going. So that's usually what's happening now. Yeah, even if I don't want to go, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. So like for people like who, because this is the first time that I've heard of alien spirit guides.
I know, it was the first time for me too.
Yeah.
It was. So, it's wild.
No, that's fascinating. But so how would someone go about trying to communicate with them and get guidance from them?
Yeah. Okay. So it's actually pretty easy. You just meditate with it, and bring intention into your meditation, and you directly ask them to either show themselves to you in the meditation, or over time throughout the week. Like I would say, ask to learn what their name is. Ask to learn what their name is. Now, my alien guide came in real quick, and I didn't expect that. So like I asked one night, I basically just went out, sat with the moon. By the way, talking to the moon actually helps you manifest stuff. I didn't realize that either, but I would do that.
That's definitely good to know.
Those pagans know what they're talking about. Okay, so utilize the moon. But yeah, so I went out there and I said, "Hey, man," because I realized that I think he's been around. I just been ignoring him, kind of like, because I've always had these thoughts about aliens, and every thought I had or intuition wise was I'm starting to find out is accurate, and that's also just based off of other mediums, intuition. I can't say facts because people are like, well, where are they? Where are the aliens?
Yeah.
I don't want people to jump on these words. Okay. This is my personal facts. Okay. You can have other facts, but my personal fact. So that night I basically said, hey, I want to get to know you. What's your name? So come to me in my dream. I always like dreams. I don't necessarily need to be yelled at in the middle of the day while I'm talking to somebody else in my ear because it's happened. And so say, come to me in my dream. And I had a dream, and the dream was wild because I felt like I was like drunk or something in my dream. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to tell him, I didn't, it was weird because it's like his face finally like went into focus and I could see it. And then I realized like, oh, that's not human. I realized that's a humanoid, but it's not, and they don't have the same emotions as us. So that's another sign that it's alien, is because humans are our own thing. We have our own emotions, and unfortunately we tend to project that onto other things when they don't have the same emotions as we do. So aliens are not going to respond the way we do. So he wasn't smiling, but he wasn't upset. Like I could tell, but I was like, me, I'm very animated type of person. I like to joke. And so I'm joking with him and I'm not getting anything really. And he's like, yeah, I know. Like that. He just kept saying, yeah, I know. And then he told me his name. And then it dawned on me when I woke up, I go, oh, I think that was my alien guy. Yeah. Like it just dawned on me.
Wow.
That was him. And he told me his name was Matt, but not Matt like M-A-T-T, M-A-T. And I think he intentionally did that because I wouldn't know how to say his name. Yeah. I think he just gave me like a moniker to call him. So, and ever since then, that's when Palladians, because he's a Palladian. My guide was a Palladian. So ever since then, the Palladian's been like, going, what's up to me? So I don't know.
Yeah. So not all guides are Palladians then.
No, they could be all different types of aliens. It doesn't. It's not. I just happen to have a humanoid one.
Just a tad. Give them the alien count about how many different species.
So I asked this to somebody who has communication directly with them all the time, and yes, I believe that person does do this. So I know that some people would not believe that, and that's okay. But she said what she's aware of, because she believes there's probably more, is at least 450 species, at least. And this makes sense, though, if we look at science, right? We're aware now that there are multiple galaxies, it's just infinity. It goes on and on and on. And who's to say what's out there? We have no idea.
Exactly.
Also, if we're looking at the divine as a sense of source and creator, I mean, why wouldn't they create whatever they wanted to whenever they want? I mean, like, humans are like an example of that. We try to create constantly because of our creator.
Yeah.
Like we're always doing stuff. So it's like, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's more, kind of thing.
All right, so I have to ask this question. On your show,
yes,
what is the craziest thing in the sense of scary and not ordinary that you've heard from another comic? Or has everything just been light and people don't really want to go into, detail?
No, my friend CJ, he actually, his house was haunted pretty severely, like in the sense like poltergeist activity. To me, that's severe. Like, if you're getting like cabinets opening, dishes slamming, that was what was happening to him on his property. So that one was a little terrifying. I know there's more stories too, like where their guest room, it was specifically in the guest room too. People would not want to sleep in there.
Yeah.
They'd be woken up like alarms would randomly go off. To me, that would be terrifying. Like if I didn't know how to handle it, which they didn't do anything. They just kind of dealt with it until they sold the house.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that place still has it. I mean, eventually those beings can be pushed out by the energy of the people who live in the home, but they would have to really stay high vibe, if that makes sense, to get that being to leave. But who's to say it's not something that's part of the land either? Because where that house was old marshes, old plantation land. It could have been also tribal. I mean, it's Florida, so we could have had Native Americans there at some point. So, and the house was on I think an acre, I think, or so. It was on a big property where it butted up to, I think, his other family's house or something. It was by the river too. So water's also by there. So that could have increased activity. But he says if he could ever buy that house back, he would. So
wow.
Wow.
He loved it. He loved the whole setup of it.
I wonder, does it still go on there with the new residents that live there?
I wonder so hard, because I'd love to go in there and actually see what it is, because I have an impression of what I think it is.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know for sure unless I go there, or CJ lets me really read into what he's, because usually when they're telling me, I'm not trying to read the situation. I'm just listening.
Exactly.
And also it's kind of energetically draining. If I'm not, fueling myself with light, if that makes sense, so after a podcast and I do a reading, I'm kind of wiped out if I have to channel more or whatever. So when I say channel, it's those are impressions, those are things so a lot of times too, as well, we will forget what we tell you when we're telling you stuff, when we're reading you. So I always tell people, if you want to record it, luckily my show's live stream, because I've had people come back and say, hey, when you said this, and I go, give me a timestamp, and I'll go back and look. Because honestly, sometimes we say stuff and we're just channeling what Spirit's telling us to say. And we have a recollection if you kind of remind me, you know what I mean? But I may not remember based off of one thing, because it meant more to you than me. It was something for you, not me. Yeah. So I just have to have a refresher of what that is. Or I can occasionally tap back into that energy if you just remind me. So that's kind of how it works. And I never, I've only recently gotten really confident about saying all this stuff, by the way, because
no, I you know what? I've talked to you multiple times, and you've done a lot of these conversations with laughter. And so in this particular interview has not been a lot of laughter, and it's like nervous laughter, people. But yeah, but yeah, no, what you're saying is, what is reality, whether it's for you, for everybody, or however people want to take it. But I think it's true. I think you're able to access these things, and this information is out there. So I think it's incredible, and it's your reality at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I started writing a joke about the tarot card readers on YouTube and all this stuff, and there's these running themes. But the reality is, the reason why there's running themes is because people are repeating certain themes themselves. They have to learn learn these lessons. So even though I'm making fun of stuff and I joke around, I truly believe in my heart in all the things I'm saying. So even if you see me smile or whatever, because I know. So
you're doing it now. You weren't doing it earlier. Now you're now you're doing it.
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's so many things I've experienced, and I used to just kind of keep it to myself, because it just, how do you explain something somebody hasn't experienced, or they're not even willing to experience it though. Some people are just nah, dude, I don't even want to mess with any of that. And there used to be me being weird about certain things. I didn't want to mess with aliens, And now I'm I'm actually not really.
I actually
afraid of
wish
it.
I would have met that person, because this person is so confident when it comes to that. So I would have loved to have that conversation with you at that time in your life. That would have been interesting.
What, being scared about telling people about it?
No. To where you didn't believe one way or the other, or you were totally didn't want to discuss it, or, it was something that you don't want to bring to the forefront.
I just, because I know, especially some of the comedians I'm close friends with, they're very logical minded. Like, they love to stay within this binary thing. And it's like, well, the reality, if you talk to a physicist, will tell you that's not the reality. There's parallel, there's multiple dimensions, there's all these things. So it's not so far fetched that there's a possibility of all of this existing. We're just not aware of it. It's just like, you can't see the other dimensions, but if we're going with the science, they're there.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
For sure.
it's like so now I'm just like, you know what? I'm also trying to be more authentically myself, because that's what Spirit says to do. And to be closer to the divine space, you have to follow and lead with your heart. And that doesn't mean you have to be fanatical about this stuff, because technically it's my personal belief, and nobody has to believe it, right?
Actually, this is the space to be fanatical. So be as fanatical as you want to be. Just FYI.
But you know what I mean? Like,
yes, no, I totally
I'm just
get
saying,
it.
like,
In your day-to-day life, it's trying to convert people.
Me.
Yeah, it's like the Christians when they're trying to convert you, or the Muslims when they're saying, "Hey," So no, I totally get that and understand it. But so what's your vision and what's moving forward? For season 2 for Los Rotos podcast.
So I want to expand it outside of the comics, though. Like, I do want to get other people's takes on this. And, I'm debating whether to do it like just creatives, in the sense of seeing what artists feel and how, because a lot of the times too, if I talk to my artists who oil paint or watercolor, a lot of the times that they'll tell you they feel like they're channeling, or they feel like they're doing something, So I'm curious to see what all these people are. And I think too, I'm supposed to be having these conversations. That's kind of what me and my mentor went over, is like, no, we're supposed to be talking about this stuff now out loud, and having these conversations, because we also think that things are going to be changing in the next couple of years for everybody. So as far as like the awakening and all that stuff that people talk about, it is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it probably will happen like through tragedy, though. So we think we're probably going to see something in the next couple of years that will affect, like on a global scale.
Yeah, cleanse through fire, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, so we're starting to see signs of it, right?
Yeah.
With the fires and stuff like that. It snowed in Florida the other day. So,
we should tell Vanessa about, remember we talked about on the show, the guy that took the lie detector test. What was that guy's name? And he said,
Archon.
No.
The lie detector test?
Yeah. He said he took a lie detector test, and he said in 2028 there is going to be, what did he say about the aliens? Like, they're going to land and it's going to become seen by everyone. Like, that's going to be common knowledge, and it's going to be let out of the bag, basically. So I didn't know if you had heard any of that, or
they're coming. They're coming. But there's also going to be a wag the dog moment too, if that makes sense. So see, so there's other documentaries that have been out and put out.
It was
for
Adam
years.
Archon was the guy's name.
At Archon?
Adam Archon. He supposedly is a time traveler. So he said, basically, the public will be aware in 2028 that aliens exist, and they will make themselves known in that year. So
yeah, they're already trying though before that. So like all the lights in New Jersey and stuff like that, the drones are ours.
Yeah,
but the lights are the Palladians. But the Palladians are doing that on purpose, because there's two plans going on here. There's a plan to want us to be scared of aliens when we don't need to be. But the question is that moment going to be the wag the dog moment where the they're bioengineered aliens and not
Mm.
actual other aliens.
That is
Be-
very interesting.
So there,
thought.
yes. So there's a documentary called Two-Face the Gray, and it is a second part to a documentary called Sir No Face. So initially, this guy he was ghost hunting. He was a paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
Wasn't even looking for aliens. And then, as he was presenting his documentary completed, some random guy with documents from the Australian government and the U.S. government showed up, gave him these papers, and disappeared. And he went through it, and it talked about the Australian and the U.S. government bioengineering greys and trying to clone them, basically to like use them to scare the public and into fear and control.
You're coming
basically.
With the hits. I just want to say she's she's landing with a bang on the show because
but these are things you can go watch.
No,
guys.
but
like,
no. From our audience and what we discuss, because at the end of the day, we talk about UFO technology being backdoor engineered, and you hear about that all the time. But you never think about, and I've not heard. I do a lot of research, and I've not heard really anyone speak on whether or not the aliens themselves are being backdoor engineered. Basically, they have the bodies, they have the DNA. Now, whether they can decipher it and how long they've had it, depending on if you go back to Roswell, depending on, what crash you talk about, the one in the landing in England, the military base in England. So yeah, who's to say that they don't have this DNA and they've been working on this DNA all this time to make, alien, creatures. In the sense of it's not is it a, what is it? You know what I mean? Because it's not truly an alien being.
Well,
it's something that...
the Draconians are the reptilian race of aliens. Those are the reptilians that people talk about. Those are Draconians. They're aliens. So the Greys usually assist them with stuff. Greys are usually assistants. Like they're not, they're not really like what people think, but they don't have the emotions, right? So they could go do whatever they want. But a lot of, I would even say some of the abductions are done by us as well. I don't know if, the aliens are actually going out there to collect us in the way that they think. I mean, but I would say just go watch the Sir, like if you want to see Sir No Face, that's fine. But the Two-Face the Gray is the follow-up, and they kind of do a summary of Sir No Face in the beginning so you understand where they're coming from and why this is a separate documentary in itself. And it's very fascinating because they have footage. They have footage of the alien. It's not like fake footage. And then it was an Australian government site that was emptied. Supposedly it was abandoned, and they thought there were ghosts there. Well, the moment they realized they had footage and the government was telling them not to use it, but they didn't have any rights. The guy's an American director, so he still used it. All of a sudden, they shut down that facility. Now nobody can go in there, and you used to be able to tour it. Yeah. So it's kind of weird after all this stuff. Like he puts it all together, and it's pretty interesting. So, your audience should be aware that not to panic because some of us may not know what we're actually looking at. Wow. I would say just be aware of that. This is why it's important to build your intuitive skills and important to build those because aliens don't need to talk to us. They can telepathically do whatever, like if they wanted to, they could probably transport into my room right now. You know what I mean? Like literally a Palladian could probably just hit me with an energetic thing and I could just pop out of my body and they could, talk to me that way. Like they can do all that, but they don't do that to us because it's not fun and they have to send somebody to place your body. Yeah. They can like physically remove your essence and like talk to you outside of your body. It's kind of wild. Wow. But it's not a fun process for people when they do it. Yeah. My mentor did it and she threw up afterwards because it's like going down a, like a really fast twirling thing, you're just like a gravitron, you're like, what's that? Wow. That's amazing. Wow. Well, my next question,
blends into all of this. What paranormal topics are you excited to explore on Strange Darkness Radio? Which
oh my
I
goodness,
gather it's
all of them.
exactly what I was about to say. All of these.
I mean, all of them.
Yes.
Every one of them. I used to have fears. I'm not fearful as much, which is the whole goal too of us, our practice is to remove your fears, because that's what will hurt you, is the fear of anything. But no, I'm interested in actually learning all about it,
Yeah.
So from other people's perspectives and seeing, because that's the thing too, is you want to keep an open mind about the possibilities, because honestly, anything's possible now is from what I understand, anything's possible.
Well, I'm going to have a ton of questions along with keeping an open mind on a lot of this.
Okay.
So just FYI.
Okay.
Amy, anything further?
No, this has been amazing. Like, I learned so much about you, but not enough, obviously, because I think that was just a very, very small percentage of the things you have to share and the knowledge that you possess. So obviously you have a lot of fascinating experiences. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about them, ma'am.
Yeah, there's a lot more experiences like I used to have with my daughter, like Inception dreams. You guys heard about Inception, right? The movie. So I used to have them with my daughter when she was little too. So yeah, no, it's going to be interesting too, like, interviewing some of these people, getting to know what their abilities are, how they utilize them, what their practice is. I'm always curious about that too, because really there's no one right way or wrong way.
Yeah.
A practice is not necessarily a system. A practice is what you do every day to acknowledge yourself as a divine being living in within a human experience, having a human experience. So a practice could just be being grateful every day, saying, "Hey, thanks guys, thanks for looking out for me. Keep looking out. I appreciate y'all." It doesn't, or some people have altars, or some people go to church. It doesn't really matter. It's just as long as it's true to what you feel in your heart is accurate, Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Tonight, I am going to be trying to talk to my alien or spirit guide. So I'm going to be working on that, actually.
Yeah, do that. And I would even go out there and
I'll
be
keep
like,
you guys
hey,
posted.
Hey, Vanessa said there's this. So if you're here, I'd like you to come in my dream, and I'd like to know your name. And if you can't tell me today, at least by next Saturday, come into a dream, and by next Saturday, and I want to know your name. I guarantee you'll get like an image of it on like a napkin or something like that. Some random thing in your dream.
She's going to be in her backyard with no shoes on in the grass, trying to connect with the earth. And a frog is going to jump out.
That. That's really good.
But a frog is going to jump out, and she's going to run back in the house. She's scared of frogs.
Yeah.
So just
if you have
I'm
crystals,
excited that I learned.
Yeah, if you have crystals, put them out tonight. They'll get cleansed really well. I never used to be into those things, but now I guess I have to utilize them because they work. So I'm just like...
She said because they work. I love that.
Well, the thing is, I used to be like, I believed it, but I was like, I don't know if I was like, I don't want to be, made fun of. And I realize there's a lot of internalizing stuff, and I just still joke around about it, but I definitely have my crystals. So it's like...
Amazing. Well, one last question.
I'm going to be doing that tonight.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, I said I'm going to be doing that tonight. Sorry, I think I'm freezing up, so I hope I didn't cut you guys off or anything. I didn't realize I was frozen.
No, you're not frozen on my side.
Okay.
But what message would you like to share with our audience as you begin this journey with us, Strange Darkness Radio?
I would like to say that, please enjoy all the stuff that we're about to present to you, and come in with an open mind. And also, I would love to see if people have questions or feedback, leave comments for us, I guess, on like Spotify, anywhere, right? Apple Podcasts, whatever. Because, we want to get involved in what the audience wants to listen to from us and hear from us, because there are so many things now coming to light. And I think people have so many questions about random things. And I always love learning more. So if the audience can share something new with me, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I'd be love to look into it and find out. But yeah, and I think every day, guys, just leave with love and kindness. Honestly, I've been saying that every time to everybody when I sign off, even when I'm at a mic. I think people need to be reminded sometimes, because it is tough now for us out there dealing with everything. But I'm excited to get to know the audience as well. So that this should be a really fun time. I'm so excited to be part of the team now.
Well, thank you for joining us, and it's a blessing to have you, and it's going to be an incredible ride. Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
So go ahead and give us your sign off, Vanessa.
Oh, I'll thanks, because I'm so used to Los Rotos. Thanks for listening to Strange Darkness Radio. I've been Vanessa Scaduto, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
As your journey through the shadow realms of Strange Darkness Radio concludes, remember that you unlock the door to the paranormal with the key of imagination. Beyond it lies another dimension, a dimension of eerie soundscapes, chilling sights, and the profound depths of the mind. You're venturing into a land of both haunting shadows and tangible substance, where the ethereal meets the corporeal, and ideas take on a spectral form. You've just crossed over into the Strange Darkness Radio Zone. In the vast expanse of the paranormal, there exists a fifth dimension, extending beyond the known realms of our understanding. It is a dimension vast as the cosmos and eternal as infinity, a mysterious terrain between the illumination of light and the depths of shadow. This is the middle ground between the empirical and the supernatural, where fears fester in the pit of humanity's soul and knowledge ascends to its zenith. Welcome to the dimension of imagination, an area we dub the Strange Darkness Radio Zone. As you conclude your journey with us, remember that you're departing this peculiar zone, a place where reality intertwines with the surreal. Be cautious as you step out, for you may find that the boundaries between the normal and the paranormal blur, leaving you forever in the lingering embrace of the unknown. Until next time, farewell from the depths of the Strange Darkness Radio Zone.